Here we are. So this fountain is actually very beautiful. There is a medieval fair in this city in summer. So this fountain is actually an important part of the process, because there are a lot of shows here in this square, and you have people breathing fire or juggling, doing different things, and it's very relaxing. I like this sound. The birds and the water. It's I would say the most relaxing part of this city, and it connects with a military building that is still active. It has been here for decades and decades, and it has also a couple of cannons, I think. Yeah, there they are. Because sometimes they take them away. I don't know, maybe for fear that somebody will be using them. And you also have here another fountain. Excellent. I like this type of construction, this type of lifestyle. When you analyze the city and you see who was living where, who was a neighbor of who, and you see that that all of them are connected somehow, that there was a famous writer that was living very close to the city of a famous city mayor, that was also close to where Picasso used to live when he was studying here in this city, because his dad was a teacher in some high school, if I remember correctly. And I like how everything was connected before. Like nowadays, I wouldn't tell you if any of my neighbors or the people on my street are famous for anything, but back then everyone was packed in a few streets, and it's kind of interesting. I think it's it's kind of cool. So it's a nice feeling to go around the city and the parts of the city that are still historically relevant, and you imagine how they were living. And a bird. A bird, also called a seagull. Yeah. There you are. Go on with your life. Yes. We shall not bother you. Yes, indeed. And I couldn't show you the church from before because of my laziness. Oh no, the wind. The wind. Oh, I forgot to put the foam on the videos. Damn. That ain't right. So anyhow, typical streets. Most of the houses are like derelict, I would say. Like some of them are being renovated, but some others are just abandoned, which is interesting because they are expensive. This is like the center of the city. So I never understood why people who live in a part of the city that is supposed to be they're supposed to be rich. Let's talk plainly. These are supposed to be rich people, and their buildings look worse than in the suburbs or than in other areas where there are more humble dwellers. So I never understood that. It's like, what happened to these people? And if they cannot take care of their houses, why wouldn't they sell them instead of just allowing the building to be abandoned and spoiled? Look, in a beautiful church. Cool stuff. Oh, there is a zoom. All this time there was a zoom on the video. Damn. Now everything makes sense. Oh, yeah. Not cool. Anyhow, let's go this way. So Yeah, this church is kind of old, but I'm going to be vague about it because I have this problem that I can't remember dates, numbers, and sometimes places. So I will remember maybe, the main parts of the battle, for example, or the main parts of the church, but I won't remember when it was made, built, established. And I'm desperately looking for an information panel that was supposed to be there, but I can't find it. So, yeah. How is it now without the zoom? Is it better? Probably yes. By the way, I don't blame you for leaving any comments about the technical abilities that I have for filming, because, it took me 15 minutes to realize that the zoom was on. Dun, 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 dun. We are walking around the old town, and we are singing a song about it. Oh, beautiful square. Oh, look. Heaven, I'm in heaven. In my heart. Oh, there's a convent full of nuns. A chapel. Oh, a chapel with the nuns and everything. Okay. Interesting. So, if at some point you want to become a nun, you know where to come. Just, give it a thought, because they have to bake cookies. It's not all abstinence and praying. They also have to work. They have to bake cookies and muffins and sell them at a very high price. So, yeah. Ooh, another cool square. Oh, this is cool. It's kind of cool because of the location, but at the same time, I don't know. I would prefer more space to play. And another cool fountain. You have to hand it to them. Like the fountains from the 18th and 19th centuries were the best. Like, you couldn't build such an awesome fountain nowadays. Look. So cool. And traditional houses. That's what I'm talking about. Like, if you live in this part of the city, your house is worth a lot. So it puzzles me. Like, this should be the place where the houses look the best. Instead, they look normal, or in some parts, kinda roughed around the edges, so to speak. Okay, we are still alive. That's good. And another typical street. But on second thought, what do I mean by typical? As if the other streets don't belong to the city. But they do. All streets are beautiful in their own way. So, yeah, palm trees. Oh, palm trees. Look at that. Look at that, yeah. Oh, you like that, don't you? Of course you do. And by the way, my sense of orientation is very bad. So, all things considered, perhaps walking and showing things is like joining most of the things that I do worst. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Did I arrive to the gardens that Did I? Yeah. Oh, cool stuff. Hey, good for me. Ah, you're gonna love these gardens. What else? Is that the church we saw before? Like, I'm asking you, but yeah, I should be the one knowing. Anyhow, these gardens are amazing, and the story is a bit crappy if you know about history. But I'm not saying it's my case, but so there was this thing with Napoleon. Oh, this is gonna take time. So Napoleon wanted to invade Portugal because they were allies of Great Britain, and they wanted to go through Spain. But since they were going through Spain, of course, I would also have conquered Spain since I am there already with the troops. And he wanted to take the current king and replace it by his brother, Joseph. And you might think that's bad, but at the time we had like very bad kings in Spain. And the guy that came after that one was the worst king in history, according to most historians. So, if you're asking me, hey, was Napoleon the good guy or the bad guy in that story? It's like, I don't know, man. I'm as lost as you are. So, the thing was that, the resistance, they started resisting Napoleon and everything. And the British came because, there was already like an established resistance in Spain, and they brought troops. So are the British the good guys? But you would like to think that. Oh, we were there already. You remember that? Yes, you do. My little princesses. So were the British the good guys? I would like to say so, but as they were advancing around the country, they were burning businesses and factories that could pose competition to their own industries. So they built a lot of factories, like, hey, we're going to liberate that village over there, but let's stop here for one day and burn this clothing factory, because, we also make clothes in Great Britain, and if we build your factories for the next 3 or 5 years, we are going to be the only ones selling clothes to the other countries. So anyway, they didn't do much, like the British didn't. This is the tomb of Sir John Moore, apparently. So I don't remember if they took away the remains, because every 3, 4, 5 years there are news about the remains being taken away. But I don't know if that happened, but I know that this ground is considered British ground. Like if you step foot here, you would be in Great Britain. And let's try. Yeah, Great Britain. Oh heavens! Fancy a cup of tea, perhaps. So yeah, it was very difficult to determine if these guys were heroes or if they were, because 60 years earlier they were trying to conquer things and pirating. So it's very hard to say who are the good guys, who are the bad guys. And at the same time, it was like, hey, we're going to control your country. We are the French, and we bring you enlightenment and liberal ideas and universities and all that stuff. But some of our generals are going to steal your art and your religious artifacts and all that stuff, and they will be selling them or putting them in their chateaus. So it's like, okay, are you good or bad? I still don't have it very clear. And then the British come and the battle starts, but they lose and they have to retreat. So it's like, hey, you just consumed resources, burned factories, and now you leave in defeat. And they had to evacuate them from this port. As they were doing so, the guy died, and apparently he said something like, the usual, like, before dying, like, oh, any man in this army could have been leading it, for you are all very cool. I die. I don't know if he said those things, because, there is this tendency in, oh, here he is. 1808, right? Yeah. Sir John Moore, yes indeed. Look at him. Oh, look at him. By the way, it bothers me when I see a historical figure looking my age, or perhaps, I don't know, like a couple of years older. But you know what I mean? It's like, hey, you're just a kid. I'm older than you are. So, I don't know, it makes me... That's a hotel, and this is like some place to do sport. My descriptions are, as you can see, full of details and explanations. Oh, a swimming pool. Look at them swimming in the open air, like people, like real people. Aha! Should I use the zoom? Let's try to zoom. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The port, you remember that I already took you to that port, the chains and everything. So, oh yeah, the next part of the story is when finally, like, the royal family was safe and they brought them back to Spain and everything. Oh, the wind, sorry, the wind. So, yeah, at that point, it became clear that the king wouldn't accept any liberal ideas or any of that stuff. So what basically happened was that the guy said, yeah, okay, am I the king again? Good. Hunt anyone that was opposing the royal power. And, he was one of the worst kings we ever had. So, all things considered, perhaps Napoleon would have been the best option. And perhaps the British weren't really effective in that campaign, in that particular campaign. And perhaps the country would have been better with more liberal ideas and all that. But you can't tell for sure, because after that, if you remember, France went to, I guess, 3 more revolutions. How many revolutions did they have? Like, they are all the time. Like, throughout history, it's like, how many... Like, this is, what, their 4th republic, or their 5th republic. It's kind of easy to lose track of that stuff. So, I don't know. I think that liberal ideas of Napoleon would have been cool, but I don't really know if they didn't work for France. Because, they were like, yeah, we're all the same and everything. Do I have the army? Good. Make me emperor. It's like, okay, emperor. That doesn't sound very Republican, but okay. You're not a king, that's for sure. You're an emperor. Oh, that's a huge difference. So, yeah, it reminds me of World War II, when, you imagine that, the United States won the war, therefore everything must have been cool after that, right? It's like, no, apparently they still had economic problems throughout the rest of, like the 40s, beginning of the 50s. So the American dream began at least in 1954, 55, 56. Like, 1951, the war was already over, but everything was in ruins, and that's surprising. Like, and it's also surprising how, depending on what they want from citizens, they put them, like, they bring them one way or another. So my point is that, in the 1930s, 1940s, it was like, hey, women, you can do factory jobs, you can do anything you want, because, you're very cool. Come to the factories and, just your husband is in the war and you'll be in the factory. That's the future now. But then in the 50s, the husbands came back, well, the soldiers and everything, came back from the war and all that stuff. So it was like, hey, you're not needed in the factories anymore. Wouldn't you be happier in your kitchen, baking and stuff? So, you have cool nurses that might have won decorations and war medals in the war, and then you have them like, you know, back to the kitchen. It's like, hey, you did very well in the war, and you did very well in the factory. Congratulations. Now go back to the kitchen. So it was the same for Russia. If you remember, there were units of female snipers, also known as women, women snipers. And it was also surprising to imagine that, you know, in the 30s and 40s, we need you to shoot. So, hey, women can shoot as good as men. And in the 50s, we just need you to go to the kitchen and take care of children, because we need more citizens in Mother Russia or in wherever. So, you know, go do that. And I don't know, it's also good to be, like, you know, to adapt. You cannot be a soldier all your life, or you cannot be all the time. Sorry about the wind. So you know, you cannot be doing the same. But it's kind of interesting that the same people, for example, opposing in the 50s, for example, like, oh, I like traditional. Like, wait, what do you mean by traditional? During the 40s, traditional stuff was a bit different from what you're doing in the 50s. And then in the 70s, everything went like, what? What are you people doing? This is madness. So keep that in mind. Like, it's not progressive. It's not, you know, it doesn't progress in a normal speed. It's kind of like, I don't know, chaotic. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the 1930s, you could have been, or let's say in the 1940s, you could have, oh, let me show you these ruins. In the 1940s, you could have been a sniper woman with medals and everything. And then the war finishes, and it's like, come on, Svetlana, go back to the kitchen. Leave that rifle there. No husband is going to marry you if you're shooting at everything. Come on, be sensible. And I guess it's also like, you know, kind of like they're... they also realize that stuff, that's what I mean. Like, a lot of Russian women that were heroes during the war and everything, they realized, like, hey, this doesn't make me happy. I want a normal life in a quiet place where I can have nature and, like, you know, beautiful family and peace and all that stuff. Like, nobody likes shooting other human beings. It's like, hey, but you do it very well. It's like, thank you, but that's not who I am. And a lot of those women, like, you can see them in the documentaries and everything. So, yeah, keep that in mind. And sorry about the wind once again. Forgot about the foam. But, yeah. So now we are watching the St. Francis Convent. The ruins of the St. Francis Convent, which happened to be established in 1554. Right? 1554. Am I reading correctly? Yeah, 1554. St. Francis. Interesting. And I would like to tell you a lot about these ruins and everything, but I'm not particularly knowledgeable. I know that they are in a cross shape, but I guess any primary student knows that. Like, churches have a cross shape. That's all I remember. Like, the rest of the stuff was like noise, like roar, 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 roar. Oh, this is where the altar used to be, and like roar, 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 roar. And here we have cool gardens, but I was busy. I was busy telling you how Russia, because, you know, in communist times, it kind of like that evolution is fascinating, I tell you, because it was like they had like, women had a lot of rights, and they basically could do the same because everyone was the same and blah blah blah. So it was like seeing the future. Like, Russian women, like Soviet women, let's say Soviet women, they had more rights, they were more advanced and everything. So in the 40s, the American women, I think, could, well, Western women in general, they could only serve as nurses and all that, but in Russia they could be firing and, you know, being snipers and all that. But my point is that the natural progression for those women was to say, like, yeah, thank you for giving me this rifle. I don't want it anymore. Can I be normal? And that's what they did. Like, the Russian women in the 50s were as traditional as you could imagine, like any other woman from any other point in time. And I guess that's also true for men. I'm not only focusing on women. It's also true for men in the sense that, hey, you have a corporate job, you're doing it, you're a winner, you're like, you're the coolest guy. And it's like, but that other guy is earning half of what I'm earning, but he's playing with his children, he's going to the beach, he's doing a lot of stuff, and he has a life outside his office, and somehow you're telling me that I'm winning, but I don't notice it, and so this would be an ancient well. Ancient as in 200 years maybe. Ouch, my foot got stuck. So yeah, that's my point. It's like, hey, we need corporate jobs. You know what's being a winner? Being in corporate stuff. You should be working at an office. And they take you that way. And then when they don't need you anymore, it's like, hey, do you know what's cool? Something else. And in the case of the World Wars, it was very obvious. It was like, hey, 10 years ago you told me to take a rifle. And now you're telling me that I should adjust to civilian life. How? How is that? And yeah, so keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. No conclusion here, just keep those facts in mind.